member for Fraser, Ken Fry.
Good evening. Well, the people of Canberra are still trying to digest and assess the full implications of the Lynch Committee report as they apply to Canberra. And whilst I don't disagree with all the recommendations, I think generally they are a fairly revolutionary set of concepts, which in the long term I think will have a detrimental effect on Canberra. I'm afraid that it will lead to a lowering of the aesthetic standards of the city, and that with the handing over of many of the functions to private enterprise, it will be more subject to market forces, and that this will lead to greater inequalities in the social structure of the city. Certainly proposals such as the amalgamation of the TAB and the poker machine boards I think are very rational, sensible proposals. And I also agree that there is a need to reassess the role of the NCDC. I think the NCDC have done an excellent job in setting out the broad planning parameters for Canberra. Their work has been of an extremely high standard, but I think there is a good argument that that basic planning function having been completed, the whole structure of the NCDC should be reviewed with a view to reducing it to some extent. Now, probably the two aspects of the report which concern me mostly are firstly the proposal to sell or do away with the vehicle testing station, and this is done on the basis that it is going to save the government some money. Now certainly it will save a few $1,000s in running costs, but against that of course we've got to measure the cost of a lowering of safety standards in our vehicles, and I'm putting a series of questions to the Minister to ask him how he's going to protect these standards to ensure that while saving a few $1,000s that our vehicles are going to be less safe, we're going to have more road accidents in Canberra, more people maimed and injured or killed and faced with costly litigation. This is the other side of the coin that I think we've got to look at very carefully, and certainly most people I've spoken to are opposed to departing from our present system, which is the envy of other states in the Commonwealth and is quite unique as far as Australia is concerned. The other project, of course, is the Belconnen shopping mall, and there's been some discussion in the Parliament about that this week. And I understand that a number of petitions are about and thousands of people are signing that petition saying that they do not want to see the mall sold to private enterprise. Now, my position, which has been questioned in the Parliament, is that it should remain a public enterprise with the profits which are now coming forward being devoted to providing recreational facilities which do not now exist in Belconnen. Now, if the government is determined to abolish the authority, well then I certainly prefer that the present tenants be allowed to enter into some strata title arrangement which would protect their goodwill in their businesses rather than selling it to an outside enterprise who may not act in the interest of the landlords and in the interest of the tenants. And of course that has happened in some of the other shopping malls in Canberra. So that I'm all in favour of a strata title system if it can be arranged, because I think if people build up goodwill in their business, they're entitled to retain that goodwill in their own interests. I'm also concerned, of course, about the proposal to hand over the sale of residential land to private enterprise. Certainly there are already evidence that there are some unsavoury practices going on in over-the-counter sales, and I think we've got to be very, very careful to protect the interests of the single home buyer, the person who wants a residential block to build their first home, and I'll also be asking the Minister to look at this very carefully indeed. Good evening.
The member for Fraser, Ken Fry. The views expressed in the foregoing are not necessarily those of this station.